Welcome to 8 Unedited Minutes. I'm here with Clay Hicks, founder of H7 Network. Thank you so much for being here, Clay. I appreciate you making the time. I know you're a busy guy.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
And I'd love to jump right in. We were talking about the difference between a champion and a referral source. First of all, how did you discover what's a champion? What's the story? How did you discover that term or come across that term?
Yeah, so back when I really started doing all my one-to-ones, when I would leave those good one-to-ones and such, or bad one-to-ones or whatever, I was doing a serious amount of reflecting, okay? And so at this one moment, somebody was asking me what I was doing in these one-to-ones. So this would have been like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
And I was explaining, like, I'm making these introductions and I'm trying to champion for these other people. And I said it just like that. And they were like, champion, what do you mean? I said, champion, like champion on their behalf. So I just want to open their doors and be very intentional about it.
Okay.
So fast forward, the word champion really wasn't used until last year. And so we didn't bring that word out until I had done even more. And I'm talking thousands more of one-to-ones.
Whoa.
And going through all these trainings and talking to members and, hey, let's be champions. And it just really stuck and, really stuck out. And now H7 Network is where champions are made.
So what is the difference between a champion and a referral source? Because it seems like it could be a muddy water in between, or is there a key differentiator there?
There really is. So to me, my perspective is a referral partner or a referral source is really about having a relationship with somebody that sends you opportunities when opportunities arise. Okay. When an opportunity comes in, like, Mark, I got your back, man, and I'll take care of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity. Champions are people that behave much more intentionally.
Okay.
So it really comes down to scheduling time to be intentional, to open up doors for each other in a consistent and committed way. And so champions really will be more focused on being intentional about filling your pipeline full of people that you want to meet with. And a referral partner is much more opportunistic.
So if someone says, a champion, that's great. I want to find one. How do you find a champion?
Well, it's a little bit more in depth than this, but I'll kind of simplify it to the best of your ability. Okay. So the best of my ability. So essentially, you got to be prepared, plan, understand who you're actually going to go after to try to build these relationships with. So I would recommend you start with your COIs. So understand who your target market is, who else shares that target market, and then work your way backwards from there. So if it's somebody that's a center of influence for you, start there. When you really enter into trying to build a champion, you have to be intentional. Okay. And essentially you do your, first one-to-one, chances are that's going to be a good one because you've been very intentional about it. What you're trying to accomplish, things like that. But you really do have to deepen that relationship. So one-to-one does not do it. One-to-one does not make you a champion for each other. You got to keep going. So think of like a second one-to-one, okay? And then not only is it a second one-to-one, but you're going to start kind of really seeing how each other operate in that second one-to-one, okay?
Okay.
Once you're in that second one-to-one, you start seeing what it might be like to work with that person, futuristically speaking. Then you can, and again, I'm not going into every detail, but again, after that, you're going to meet in a more consistent basis and understand why you're meeting and being very intentional about it.
What would be an example of frequency of meetings? I mean, once I realize it could be anything, it depends on the person, but in general, what would the frequency be?
If you really want predictable results, you're going to be looking at every 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, every 4 to 6 weeks. And if you want predictable results.
And how does someone become a champion?
Well, I mean, the decision has to be made between the two parties, whether it's, does the champion word need to be used? I don't know. But, in a more informal way, like if you and I decided, hey, let's start meeting up every 4 to 6 weeks. And when we're together, we're going to be more intentional about who we're opening up doors for. Yeah. There's a couple things really happening. You're deepening the level of trust between you two, and it just makes it easier to open up doors.
Oh, so that's where the frequency comes in, because every 4 to 6 weeks, things are changing in the relation. Well, not things are changing in each of your worlds. So there's new opportunities to look at every 4 to 6 weeks. Would that be correct?
That is right. That's exactly what I'm getting at. So for example, if you and I came together every 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to catch up for a little bit. And I'm going to say, Mark, how can I help you? What's going on? What's new? Who do you like to meet? Things like that.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do the same thing for me. That's kind of what it is.
You're using the word intentional a lot. Can you expound on that? What do you mean by intentional?
Intentional to me is matching your energy and your actions and following through. So being intentional means I'm going to have a mindset of being intentional, that I am intentionally trying to do something. Mm-hmm. It is not the same as the word intentions. Intentions and intentionality is way too different. It's two different things. So the rail is paved with good intentions, right? Like, I'm going to do this. I wanted to do this, but I didn't actually take action to do it. And that action part is the intentionality, man. And you got to take action on it.
As far as the type of introductions or opportunities, what are a couple of examples? If someone's thinking, okay, I want to create a champion relationship, being or having, you keep mentioning it's helping each other with opportunities or being intentional with introductions. Is it for business? Because a referral source I think of is transactional for business, but it sounds like champion could be a lot more than that. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah. So it is for professionals, obviously, to come together. But champion does have there's a lot of different ways of being a champion. A prospect can be your champion because you treated them well, but they didn't need your service. But then you're like, hey, do you know anybody who is a realtor or a business consultant? And that person's like, man, I know another business consultant. I can introduce you to that person because of how you treated them so intentionally, trying to actually build that relationship and not sell your product or service, but sell yourself.
And from everything you're saying about champion meetings, it sounds like you really have to be prepared for them. You can't just come in and say, like, improvise a conversation or we'll figure it out as we go. I mean, once again, am I on the right track? Because it really sounds like, no, you have to know, here's what I need, here's what I can give. It sounds like there has to be an agenda almost, or at least a starting point, so you don't just go off the rails. And what does that look like?
That's right. So shameless plug, in H7, you would have that agenda. If you wanted it, you can gain access to it. But it literally comes down to connecting with one another, serving one another, and asking of one another, which is the tenet of H7 Network. That is your agenda.
This is actually, we covered a lot of ground in a really quick amount of time. Thank you for your time today, Clay. I really appreciate it. And if people want to learn more about Clay, I know the letter H, the number 7 network.com. Anything else as far as finding you online you want them to know, or should they just go to the site?
Oh, they can find me on LinkedIn and connect with me too. Clay Hicks. That's what.
Excellent. Thanks again, Clay. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.